Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit of my chest and it's by user I Might Be a Psycho. My ex broke my heart, so I broke him. I, 28 female, dated a guy for almost 3 years. To make it easy to understand, I'll refer to my ex as Sam, 28 male. It was a long distance relationship. I'm from the West Coast and he's from the East Coast. We met through a dating app and we hit it right off. The first few months were great. We had so much in common and to me, it really seemed like this relationship was going to be serious. He was my first boyfriend. I held off on dating to focus on my studies and my career. He supported me throughout my master's and my career development, and I helped him through major life changes that he was going through. I had always wanted a first and last relationship. I thought I had hit the jackpot with this guy. I travel a lot for my job. The company sends me out to different states to attend conferences, conduct training, etc. And most of these conferences are held in Sam's hometown. Even though it was a long-distance relationship, we would see each other more often because of the convenience of my job. I would stay in his apartment whenever I was there, and he would also fly to my hometown and stay at my apartment for weeks at a time. Everything was great until after our first anniversary. He started to become distant. During this time, I hadn't been able to fly down to his hometown because I was busy with training in our office. I never made him feel like he was less of a priority and I would always text him throughout the day. Whenever we were together, I basically did what I thought a good girlfriend should do. I've never had the experience, so I just did what I thought was right, like giving him attention, making him feel seen and heard, being patient with him, allowing him to go out with his friends whenever he wanted to, etc. I really thought I was doing good in my first relationship until he asked for a break. I admit, I did beg and cry when he asked for it, but ultimately, I couldn't do anything and decided to accept it and move on. I was heartbroken, but I poured my attention into my job and eventually got promoted. 2 months passed and Sam reached out to me with a really long message. Basically, he was apologizing for the sudden breakup without an explanation, and he explained why he had to do it and that he loved me and he knew that he was wrong, but if I wasn't willing to give him a second chance, then he would just settle for us being friends because he said I was a great person and a great friend. My trust was ruined at this point, but I wasn't really mad at him and I admit that I still loved him, so we decided on starting all over again, but as friends. To make it short, we ended up dating again after 5 months. I really thought this was like his redemption arc and he'd be more attentive and loving towards me, and he was, for like 3 months, and then he started being distant again. I slowly noticed a pattern in his actions. I asked a close friend of mine for some advice and she told me that Sam was breadcrumbing me. Huh? He would give me attention and love and then suddenly stop, so I would start to beg for more. After our second anniversary, we still kept our old anniversary date and celebrated that as our anniversary. He suddenly ghosted me. No message, no nothing. I was blocked on everything. I couldn't call or text his number. Nada. This time, I wasn't as heartbroken. Instead, I was contemplating what the heck this man was trying to do to me. He was toying with my emotions when all I had given him was genuine love. It started to piss me off, but again, I didn't want to do anything about it and just moved on. 3 months go by and Sam was back in my DMs, this time with a different message. He wasn't asking for another chance or anything, he was just explaining why he had done it. Basically, it was all half-assed explanations. He was leaving his old job and he got busy with a new job and he didn't have time for me, so he thought he'd get everything done before he would fly down to my hometown and reconcile. He asked if he could come and visit me and we could talk about it. During this time, I found out that while we were together, he was cheating on me, and apparently it didn't work out with that girl, so he came back to me. He had done this in the past as well. All of this was confirmed by a friend I had that moved to his hometown and became my source of intelligence. This is when I felt a switch turn in my head. I knew what he was doing, and instead of turning him down and just moving on, I wanted him to feel the way I felt when he did all this to me. I told him he could come and visit me and that I'll be waiting for him. At this point, I knew he knew I was acting out of character, He asked me if I was really okay with meeting him and talking things out, and I said yes. A week passed and he actually flew down to my hometown and he had the audacity to come to my apartment and stay with me for 3 weeks. I welcomed him with open arms nonetheless. We talked and he apologized over and over again. He kept insisting that he wasn't good enough for me to give him another chance. He kept saying how much of an a-hole he was for doing that to me, and I never deserved all of that. He would understand if I wanted to throw him out right then and there. I hugged him and told him that I still loved him and that I wanted to make things work between us. He was taken aback because he wasn't expecting this reaction from me. I told him that he was the only one who understood me and I never felt this kind of attraction to anyone else. He hugged me back and told me how much he missed me and how much he loved me. We agreed to spend the 3 weeks together, rebuilding our relationship. For the next 3 weeks, I treated him like a king, showering him with love and affection, cooking for him, making all of his favorite dishes. We would go out on dates almost every night. I bought him video games that he liked and I would let him play all night while I sat next to him and just watched him enjoy himself. I, pardon my language, effed his brains out every night. He would whisper words of love for me after we did the deed, and it was exactly what I wanted. Then the 3 weeks were up and he had to fly back to his hometown. He couldn't keep his hands away from me the day before he had to leave. He kept telling me how much he wanted to stay and live with me. I played right into his fantasy and told him I wanted that as well. I, in fact, did not want that at all. I told him I'd come visit him the next chance I get. When he left, I felt relieved. Faking everything was exhausting, but I wasn't done yet. We kept texting, calling, and FaceTiming each other when he got back to his hometown. Something he rarely wanted to do with me before. I wanted to drive him mad. I wanted to drive him crazy, like what he almost made me go through. I started ignoring his texts and calls until he became desperate. I would make up some excuse about being super busy and that I would make it up to him. The next thing I did was to randomly post pictures of me and some male coworkers that would make it seem like we were on a date. I would post them on my Instagram story and quickly delete them once Sam had viewed them. He would blow up and start calling me, asking who that was and where I was. I would tell him, "What are you talking about, babe? I've been so busy I haven't even gotten the time to be on my phone," which is an obviously blatant lie, but the more I did it, the more Sam started to question himself if he truly saw what he saw. He would apologize and admit that he missed me so much and wanted to be with me as soon as possible. He was slowly becoming obsessed with me, and that's what I was hoping for. It got to the point where it drove him mad whenever I started to act coldly toward him. I would always play dumb whenever he would ask why I was acting so cold. He would ask if I wanted to break up with him, and I would say, "Why would I do that? You're the only one for me." Whenever I would say those words, his face would go from relieved to worried in a split second. I kept doing all of these things for months until the slight thought of me leaving him drove him insane. He once flew down to my hometown unannounced when I was acting cold toward him. He banged on my door at 10 p.m. and he only brought a backpack with him with a few clothes. He clung to me that night and obviously I reassured him that I wasn't going to leave him, and I, once again, excuse my French, gave him an effing of a lifetime. He had to fly home the next day and I reassured him that I'll always be here for him. Little did he know that I'll be temporarily sent to Europe for a month-long training and I'm not planning on contacting him. The moment I leave, I'm blogging him on everything and I'll be deleting all of my social media accounts. Am I a psycho? Probably. Oh wow, OP, that is some calculated revenge you got there. And I gotta say, I absolutely do not agree with anything that Sam did. He cheated on you, he breadcrumbed you, he treated you like crap, and he deserved most of the things that you did to him, yes. But OP, this is a dangerous game. I don't think you're a psycho, but maybe you did take it a little bit too far to the point where you made him obsessed with you. Something that I'm not sure happened to you, since you stated that you wanted to drive him mad and you wanted to drive him crazy like what he almost made you go through. Again, OP, I'm not defending what he did. I think what he did was gross. But in my opinion, obsessed people can do things that we don't expect them to do. So be careful. And what do you guys think? Do you think OP did more than she should have, just enough, or underplayed it? Let me know what you think in the comment section. And now let's take a look at the comments and a little bit of context from OP before we move on with the update. This could be massive says, this seems like way too much time and effort to devote to a guy you don't even like anymore. Imagine if you put even a tenth this effort into finding someone who you could have a healthy relationship with. But I guess if it satisfies you to know what being a manipulative a-hole feels like, you are definitely having the experience. I just really hope you don't bring this experience into your next relationship, now that you've made elaborate mind-effing a normal thing for you to do. Curled Squirrel says, he made you go through an emotional roller coaster. You have every right to do what you did. Actually, I find you very forgiving for all the chances you gave him, but he just sort of took advantage of it and left you standing in the cold. You're probably an amazing person, and he's a dork. Deleted says, giving him all the attention and what he wanted even for an extra period, even if it was calculated, seems like you were giving yourself an excuse to spend more time in the fantasy with him, and in the end was probably making it harder for you to leave. The minute he treated you that way, it should have been the end. No more wasted time and energy for revenge. Because if he cheated and treated you that way in the beginning, he didn't care at all and he just knew he could take advantage. He probably did not begin to care when you began catering to him. He probably just enjoyed the benefits and advantages. This knowledge will help you move on. I was like this once upon a time. Cheat back when a guy cheated, make him obsessed and leave. It helped my ego but messed with my soul. It's not healthy for you, the person doing it, and you will carry these traits and probably trauma into another healthy relationship. It's all fun and games until you realize what kind of calculated and manipulative person you're becoming. Even if it's in your head, it's justified and deserved. Additional information from OP's comments. I just want to say, yep, I'm that petty, and the temporary satisfaction I got from wasting my time was worth it, to be honest. But I couldn't really put into words the emotional damage he put me through, but if I suffer, he suffers. Also, I would never cheat as he did. That's just a line I'm not willing to cross. I don't want to be with him anymore. I just wanted to inflict emotional damage. And I'm gone. Deleted all my social media accounts, blocked his number, etc. I'm currently enjoying my time here in Germany. I'll check on the damage after I've enjoyed myself. Deutschlandsternen. Alright, well, nothing to add to that except check out this playlist that only has stories with updates on them. And now, let's move on to the update to this story. I said I was gonna post an update after a week, but as someone else said in the comments, we never really know what people can do. I have a Ring camera set up on my door. On the second day that I left, I was curious if anyone had been by my apartment. To my surprise, not really, I saw a frantic Sam banging on my door. Based on the footage that I saw, he was there for a good 2 hours before a neighbor went out and talked to him. This might have been my downfall since I wasn't really expecting my neighbor to actually talk to Sam while he was there. I'm friendly with my neighbors, and the day I had left, I had blabbed that I was heading to Europe for work-related stuff, since they asked why I had luggage with me. It seems like they told Sam about it, and he immediately ran out of my apartment building. I honestly wasn't expecting him to do anything, since he had the audacity to cheat, so maybe he'd just call it quits and move on. Nope, I was wrong. We had a common friend, let's just call her V. Well, we didn't really talk to V much because she was busy with her life, stay-at-home mom with 3 kids. And since we didn't talk to her much, I forgot to tell her about what happened with Sam. I had informed my friends and all our common friends to not give Sam my number or to not contact me when he asks. And when she called me, I answered not knowing it was gonna be Sam. He asked where I was in a very frantic voice, almost on the verge of tears. I very plainly said, "Oh, you really don't need to know, right? Like how I didn't need to know about Lisa, the girl he cheated on me with." He was very quiet for a while and I thought about hanging up. He immediately went on an apology overload, giving all of the cliche reasons like he made a mistake, it wasn't like that, etc. He was begging for another chance, a chance to finally make things right. He was really serious about us and he wanted to fight for our relationship. I just replied with, "Maybe in the next life, bud," and I hung up. I blocked V's number in the meantime until I was sure he had left. Then, this morning, I unblocked V's number and I received a text saying, "I'm not giving up on us." I ignored it and went on with my day. The update is kinda anticlimactic, but I'm sure he got my message. Update 2. This a-hole showed up in Germany and now won't stop blowing up my phone. This man found a way to track me down and is now here in Germany and trying to find me. He got a hold of me once and told me his plan, and I blew up at him and said, "You cheated! Why can't you just go and be with that other woman or be with someone else? I already made it clear that you're out of my life." He insisted that he didn't cheat and that he wants to fix our relationship. On one hand, I completely underestimated what he can do, but on the other hand, I'm draining his bank account with what he's doing. Do I regret it? Nope. Well, OP, there's nothing to say here except good for you. I mean, he went to Germany. That's gotta freak you out. At least it freaked me out. That's why I think maybe you took it a little bit too far, but you don't regret it. So just stay safe, OP, and thank you so much for sharing. Take care and all the best in the future. Now, let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user Dan Experiment. Waste my time with small claims court, will ya? My mother passed away in 2016, and one of the ways to keep her memory alive is to tell one of my favorite stories about her. I grew up in an Air Force town, and my mother worked on the base, and it wasn't uncommon for spouses of people stationed at the base to offer babysitting services. More often than not, you would stay with a babysitter as long as you possibly could. This story takes place sometime in 1989. My sisters and I had been getting watched by a woman whose husband was in the Air Force and living in base housing. One day, while I was at school and my sisters were getting babysat, my mother received an urgent call at work. There has been a fire. She is told that everyone is okay, but there has been a fire. As it turns out, the woman kept cigarette lighters in damn near every room in the house. A 3-year-old kid she also babysat got a hold of one of the lighters and set one of the bedrooms on fire. Needless to say, my mother tells this babysitter that she will no longer be requiring her services. Mom finds another sitter and she thinks that is the end of it. Then the phone calls start coming from this babysitter telling my mother she still owes her $20 for the previous week, which wasn't the case since my mother had paid her at the start of the week. The arrangement was to get payment for the week that was to come. My mom told her to pound sand, considering that her carelessness could have resulted in my two sisters becoming seriously hurt. A short time later, my mother receives a notice that she is to appear in county small claims court over this $20. My mother once again tells the babysitter to go to hell and that she'll see her in court. For reasons unknown to me, it was decided that she ended up having to pay her the $20. The only reason I can gather is that the fire took place on a Friday and there was no advance notice of her not being needed any longer. The judge told my mother that she has 30 days to pay her by cash or check. This was the late 80s, so no debit cards. My mother did exactly as she was instructed, by writing this woman 40 checks for 50 cents. I was told later by my mother that she spent what seemed like an hour writing out the checks, one after the other. I then asked her why. Her reply was that both she and the babysitter had accounts at the same bank, and she knew that you could only cash 5 personal checks a day. It may be the most deviously brilliant thing I've ever seen. Well, she got taken to court and she lost the case. However, nobody told her how she had to pay. Good for your mom, OP. That was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.